Holly here, and we're going to do something a little bit different today. We're going to have a garden tour. This is about our 6th year gardening, and this year our garden is 70 by 30, which is pretty big, but you don't always have to start out that big. Let's get started. Our first plant that we have 7 mammoth sunflowers. We did these just for our kids. They wanted to grow sunflowers, so we said, why not? The mammoth sunflowers we'll be able to harvest sunflower seeds off of, dry out their stalks, and use them to stake up tomato plants or make a trellis, whatever we want to use those for later on when they're all dried out. They'll be hard as a rock, which is really cool. Our next 2 rows that we have are our collard greens. We love collard greens in our house. We're gonna put these in the crock pot with a little chicken stock and either a ham hock or some bacon grease, and they're going to be absolutely delicious. Trust me on it. Let me know if you try it. Our next 2 rows that we have actually are our bush cucumbers. This is our first year doing bush cucumbers. Usually we do climbing cucumbers on a cattle panel, but we wanted to try something a little different this year. That's the cool thing about the garden. You're not stuck to one thing. You can try different variations of any type of plant that you want. So we're gonna see how these go and see which one we like better, and we'll let you know. Next we have our zucchini. I know this looks like a ton of zucchini, and it is. About 2 plants would probably do for a family of 5, but we like to use zucchini in everything. We like to make squash and zucchini relish. Another fun thing about zucchini is when you grate it, it doesn't have a flavor when you put it in things. So we're gonna put grated zucchini in our hamburger meat, and our kids are not gonna know any different. That's a cool mom fact. If you put grated zucchini in any kind of ground meat, your kids aren't gonna know, and it gives them a little extra vegetable that they're not gonna know about. Next we have squash. This is summer squash. And again, this is a lot of squash. About 2 squash plants will do you if you're not gonna do lots of different things with it. But we are going to put some squash up, we're gonna freeze it, we're gonna make a squash relish, we're gonna eat on it all summer, and we love to share it with our family and friends. So that's why we grow so much, is because we love to share what our garden gives us. So we do an excess amount. I realize that this is gonna be a ton, but we have lots of different things we're gonna use it for this summer. A cool thing about the squash plant is every single bit of it is edible. The leaves, the roots, the stalks, all of it. So for us, it's worth it to grow a ton of it. Another cute thing about it is when these stalks get a little bit bigger, we're gonna make squash horns for our kids. Think of it like a garden flute. Our kids love it. It's something fun that we can do to involve our kids in the garden. Next we have our tomatoes. We're doing 20 tomato plants this year, that way we have enough to do all of our canning for our tomato products. This year we've done Amish paste tomatoes. They're in the Roma family. They're a meatier tomato, so they're gonna be perfect for spaghetti sauces, pizza sauces, things along those lines. We've actually, after 6 years of gardening, we've kind of realized that our Amish paste tomatoes do the best as far as not getting eaten up by bugs, being really resilient to pests. We also have a marigold in between each plant, and those are going to be for pests as well, and plus they're medicinal, so that's really cool. So it's just another thing that you can use from the garden that has multi-purposes. All right, if you can tell, we have a lot of rocks in our garden, and that's okay. We used to try to get every single rock out of our garden, and it was a pain. I went with my dad once to our Amish down the road to get some plants and realized that they don't get all of the rocks out of their garden. They leave them. They only move the ones that are in the way or that are gigantic. So I went home to my husband and I was like, listen, that's for the birds. We're not gonna do that anymore. We're gonna leave the big rocks and just move what we need to. Next we have our jalapenos. We love spicy food in my house, so we grow a lot of jalapenos. It also takes a lot of jumbo jalapenos to make cowboy candy. So we wanted to have enough to where we could have an excess amount of cowboy candy this year, plus do other things with it, like put in our pickle brines, and we're gonna try to dry some out this year. We have a lot of different things we're gonna try to do this year with this mini jalapenos. Next plant that we have are our turnip greens. Turnip greens are my favorite food. We sow them really close together and we do not thin them out because I'm only interested in the greens. Our family doesn't eat turnips, so we don't need to thin them out because I don't need huge turnips. I only want the greens for our family personally. We're going to do a video on harvesting turnip greens soon, so watch out for that. Our next plant that we have, our next 3 rows actually, are our green beans. To begin with, our first row of green beans are Roma green beans. These are what I grew up with. They're the flat green beans. They're my personal favorite. Our next row are our royal purple green beans. Our next 2 rows actually are royal purple green beans. These green beans are purple when they're on the plant, and they'll stay purple until you cook them or you can them. It's kind of a magic trick for your kids. You pick them when they're purple. When you cook them, they turn green. Also, they're very good for harvesting as many green beans as you can because you can see them. They're not going to blend into that plant. Our next row that we have is our lettuce. We have head lettuce and leaf lettuce. We've been picking on our leaf lettuce for our sandwiches here lately, and we'll harvest the rest of our lettuce sooner rather than later. In between each of our lettuce plants, we have our green onions. That was a space saver for us. That was empty space, so we're just gonna go ahead and plop an onion in there. That way we don't have to take up a whole nother row for onions in our garden. Our next 2 rows are our cabbage. We have 4 variations of cabbage this year. We have white cabbage, red cabbage, Russian cabbage, and Chinese cabbage. And I realize that is a lot, but just like Forrest Gump and Bubba and the shrimp, there's so many things you can do with cabbage. We're gonna have cabbage stew. We're gonna eat it with our squash and zucchini in the oven or on the grill. We eat cabbage all year long and we love it, and we share it with our friends and family, so we have a ton of it. Next is something new that we've not grown yet, but we're trying this year. This is our Brussels sprouts. I don't really know how it's gonna go because, like I said, we've never done it, but I'm excited to try it. And just like with our cabbage and our lettuce, we have onions in between each Brussels sprout plant as well. And that's, like I said, a space saver. Next we have our mineral tubs. In our mineral tubs, we have 3 different types of potatoes. We have russet potatoes, red potatoes, and sweet potatoes. These are really cool because they're gonna be a no-dig potato. We're just gonna dump all that good dirt back in the garden, and then we're not gonna risk harming a potato with a pitchfork. We're not gonna scrape them, we're not gonna miss a potato, we're just gonna dump and go, which is really cool. Next, we have our raised bed. In our raised bed, we're doing something new this year. We have 3 blackberry bushes. These will take a while to reach full maturity. They'll take about 2 years. We could get fruit next year, we could not. I don't know. But it's gonna be really worth the payoff later because our kids will be able to come out here and pick blackberries and have a snack. We're gonna do blackberry jam and blackberry cobblers. So that'll be really fun. They're a tame blackberry bush, so they won't have any thorns on them, which will be perfect for our kids. These are 2 different types of gardens, really. You have your raised bed and you have your mineral tubs, and that just shows that you don't have to have a big plot of land for a garden. When we started gardening, we started with 2 4x8 raised beds that my husband made out of barn lumber that he just had in the garage. We grew tomatoes and lettuce, squash, and zucchini, and that was it. Once we figured out that we really had a love for gardening, we did a garden about half this size the next year, which was really cool. And then each year, we've tried to grow our homestead just a little bit more. This year, we've added the raised bed of blackberry bushes, a chicken coop, and a little orchard of fruit trees. The thing that I love about gardening is there's always room to grow and learn. We want to be more self-sufficient and teach our kids how to be more self-sufficient as well. Climbing grocery bills, food prices are crazy, so let's try to grow as much food as we can on our own. If you have any questions or tips for us, just let us know. If you want to know about any garden tools that we use, garden tools that save us the most time as worn out mamas, garden tools that we don't use that we bought, we'll make a video for you on it. Thanks y'all, that concludes the garden tour.